let's just say this way, as a podcaster of 5 years, I know I'm like a baby compared with you and a lot of people. Like, my challenging of the podcast listener is I don't know who they are except when they reach out by themselves, or that of course I try to do my job to get them up into my list for something, so then finally I can get to communicate with them, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say how to use podcasts for our personal brand based business and in an effective way?
Well, the best way to use it is what I was just talking about, is to build that trust and build that relationship. Because once you have that trust, once they know you, because we talk about it, we're both talking about Mike's book a lot now, because for me it's very surreal. Mike's book is basically the last 5 years of my life. We're talking about Mike Kim. I've been in Mike's mastermind for 4 years now. He's one of my chief mentors, and everything I've done that he's told me to do has always worked. So I trust him. But I met him through podcasting. I actually met him at a podcast conference before I ever listened to his podcast. But because of his podcast, I decided to join his mastermind, because he could talk about all of his expertise, but he also seemed like a cool guy and a nice guy, a caring guy that helped other people. So when we talk with personal brands, we talk about how it's about you. It's about who you are. That's the difference here. They could hire any number of consultants or coaches that do the same thing, but they connect with you. And the podcast offers people the opportunity to really share themselves in an authentic way. And then you've got them, the listener, listening to more than half or all of every episode. So pretty quickly, they've spent hours with you. And I often say to people, think in your own lives, how many people do you spend an hour or a half hour of time with each week, talking or listening? Over a month, several hours. How many people? It's usually your closest friend or your partner or your children or a family member, something like that. So you can see how close that bond is. And for other, I'm trying to think if there's really, that's the best way for a personal brand to use a podcast, is to build that relationship, because then you can do other things. You can build your brand, you can build your business on the podcast. Like you mentioned, you can have lead magnets. You can have things that draw people to your email list so that you can promote things further, right? But you can also make money through a podcast with your personal brand business. I often urge personal brands, forget about advertising, forget about going and finding sponsors, sponsor yourself. Okay. Sponsor yourself, because it's really hard until you've got lots of downloads to get ads from other businesses. So talk about what you're doing. Talk about your services. Talk about your products through calls to action, or through honest sharing and authentic sharing of people's experiences. You can find clients. You can find leads through your podcast.
By the way, as a team, we are so excited to let you know that we are designing a very powerful business assessment completely free for the Christ Center leaders like you to really diagnose out what is that number one killer for your business, so you can finally move the needle and move forward. If the assessment is ready, the link will be in the description section. So please look out for it.
I know you're probably talking to a lot of people that are going to go into coaching. And for coaches, it can be hard to show people what you do, how you do it, and why you're good at it. So on a podcast, you can do live coaching sessions. You can say to people, hey, if you want a free session, come on the podcast. And just by showing people how you work, that can help you find clients. You can talk through case studies. You can share stories, like I was telling you earlier. If you're a consultant, you can share stories of successes. You can interview people on your podcast that you would want to work with as a consultant or something like that. And as you build that relationship with your audience, you can create a community that wants to get together. So you can have live events, you can have virtual events that make you money and build your personal brand. You can talk about speaking opportunities that you've had. and share those experiences. And then people who are looking for speakers, because they've listened to your podcast, they know you can sort of speak, or they're watching a video, they can see that you're good at communicating. They will hire you to speak, and it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then, there's the old-fashioned things. Because you've built this relationship, you can have membership sites, you can have fan clubs that support a podcast, that support a personal brand just because they like the content that you're creating. And then once you get big and you're famous and you've got hundreds of thousands of downloads, you can always go to advertising. You can always set up affiliate relationships. But it all comes back to the personal brand builds through a podcast because you're creating relationships with people who are either going to work with you or tell other people about you and build your audience, build your community. I mean, that's why I call my podcast Strategies for Growing Your Business, Community, and Influence, because that's what it does. It helps the bottom line. It creates a community of people that like you and trust you. And then it builds your influence in that people will listen to you and people will follow you and do what you ask them to do to improve their lives.
Well, I guess we can work in spirit, because my next question will be how to make money in the podcast. Because I got asked that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned about, because a lot of people, when they thought of that question, they always think about sponsorship. And
everybody goes into that. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see, is that people start a podcast and they think that it will go viral. They think that it's going to blow up. I'm going to be Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or somebody like that. It's not true. That's not what happens with a podcast. A podcast, the search engines are not built that way. It's an older system than YouTube. It's an older system. Really, still people find podcasts. Number one way they find podcasts is through a Google search. They're searching for something where they find the podcast as a search result. The average podcaster gets about 110 downloads per episode when they start out. And it's this slow, long play of building up this trust, getting people to share your podcast with other people that they think it will help, and doing what we're doing, like going on other podcasts and borrowing audiences, looking at whose audience could I help as a podcast consultant and producer, and finding those shows where I can talk about my little focus that helps their audience, and then try to bring some of those people back to me. And that's how it goes. You really, that's why I said sponsor yourself, because until you've got thousands of downloads per episode, 10,000 downloads per month, most major advertisers are not going to talk to you. They're not going to be interested.
And if you like this video and this episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share with others, so more crisis center leaders have the opportunity to consume this type of valuable content. Before I go, I just want to remind you that you can click on the screen to go to the next business growth videos, and I will see you in the next episode.